מועדים לשמחה, welcome back. We're starting the 10th chapter of הלכות קידוש החודש of הרמב"ם, ספר זמנים. This is the last chapter of the classical קידוש החודש הלכות. The first 10 chapters, as we mentioned time and time again, deal with how to more or less know enough to set up a calendar like the one we use today, a fixed calendar. It doesn't yet, though, tell you exactly how to know the actual astronomical phenomenon, when the moon will be seen and where and how. That is the subject of chapters 11 through 19, which are pretty difficult chapters, if not mostly because, but in part due to the fact that we see the world differently nowadays, and the math that is used is mostly a math of angles and degrees, but dealing with spheres and circles more than triangles, which is what we are more familiar with from middle school and so on and so forth. But it's doable, and that's what we are going to do. So we start with Halacha Aleph. This chapter still is one of the easy ones, is a pretty short one as well. And as we mentioned in the last chapter, there is two opinions in the Gemara, Shemuel and Rav Ada, as to how long the solar year is. According to Shemuel, it's 365 days and 6 hours exactly. According to Rav Ada, it's not exactly 6 hours, it's a little bit more nuanced. It's less than 6 hours, and we are going to see that right now. And how the tekufot are calculated on the basis of this other number. So again, a tekufa is it marks the beginning of a quarter in a solar year, and obviously the tekufa is whatever number we get to divided by 4. So last chapter we dealt with 365 and 6 hours divided by 4. This chapter will deal with the opinion of Rav Ada, which is a little more accurate and has numbers that are more difficult to work with, but we know the basics, we know the basic formula, so the chapter is going to go a little faster. Halacha Aleph, שנת החמה, למי שהוא אומר שיפחות מרוויח מחכמי ישראל. The solar year, for those of חכמי ישראל that say that it's less than a quarter of a day, less than 6 hours, אומר שהיא 365 יום, so his opinion is that it's 365 days, ו5 שעות and 5 hours, ו997 חלקים, and 997 חלקים, this is out of 1080, each חלק is 3.3333 seconds, ו48 רגע, and 84 רגעים. We have not come across how much רגעים, so Rambam is going to define it right now. והרגע אחד משישה ושבעים בחלק. If you take each חלק, each of these 1080 particles of an hour, and subdivide that into 76, then you get another unit which is called regaim, and the regaim, so the regaim are a very, very small fraction of a second, and Rav Ada was able to calculate, according to his observations, the length of the cycle of the sun around the earth from the earth's perspective as exactly 365 days and 5 hours, and it roughly comes to 37 seconds. But to be more accurate, using these units, it's 997 halakim and 48 regaim. The regaim again being 76ths of a חלק. ולפי חשבון זה, according to this calculation, you should write these numbers down if you really want to understand this chapter. תהיה תוספת שנת החמה, שנת הלבנה, then the addition, the excess of the solar year over the lunar year, in other words, over 12 cycles of the moon, 10 ימים, the excess is not 11 days, but it's 10 days, ו120 שעה, and 21 hours, ו120 חלק, and 121 חלקים, ו48 רגע, and then the 48 רגעים that we did not subdivide them further, so it's the same ones that we took before. סימן להם, and if you want to know the סימן, it's יוד כף א' קוף כף א' מ"ח. ולא תמצא תוספת במחזור של 19 כלל, אלא בכל מחזור מהם ישלמו שני החמה עם שני הלבנה הפשוטות והמעוברות. And doing this calculation, it turns out that the mahzor of 19 years is a pretty good fit. It's a pretty good fit to reconcile the solar and the lunar years every 19 years. בין כל תקופה ותקופה לפי חשבון זה, 91 יום ו7 שעות ו519 חלקים ו31 רגע. So if you take this number that we said before, 365 and 5 hours and 997 halakim and 48 regaim, and you divide that by 4, you'll end up getting, for each tekufa, for each quarter of this solar year, very simple calculation, just the numbers are not very intuitive or round, you get 91 days, 7 hours, and 519 halakim, and 31 regaim. And the siman to them is Sadi Aleph Zain Taf Kof Yod Tet Lamed Aleph. וכשתדע תקופה מן התקופות מתי הייתה, so as soon as you know one תקופה when it was, תחשוב מאותו רגע מעניין זה ותדע תקופה שאחריה על הדרך שביארנו בתקופת השנה שהיא רביעה. Then you just add quarters of this length that we just specified. הלכה ג' תקופת ניסן לפי חשבון זה הייתה בשנה הראשונה של היצירה. If you go back from a known תקופה, so they start by a known תקופה and then they go back to the beginning of human time, to שנת היצירה, you go to the first year and to חודש ניסן of that time. So the תקופה of that first ניסן was before מולד ניסן, how long? 9 שעות ו642 חלקים, was 9 hours, 642 חלקים, סימן להם תת תרמב. וכן היא לעולם בכל שנה ראשונה של כל מחזור, קודם מולד ניסן ב9 שעות ו642 חלקים. As we said, the 19 years, according to really what the cycle is based on, that's why the 19 year cycle ends up working so well. It is based on his version of Shenat Hamma, and this means that if you want to calculate anything, each cycle is going to reset the Tekufa at Nisan back to where it was during Beriat HaOlam, or the Nisan, the first Nisan of after the creation of man. So כשתדע תקופת ניסן של שנה ראשונה מהמחזור, so that's how you know the first Nisan of the מחזור. So once חלקים ו31 רגע, 31 רגעים, לכל תקופה ותקופה, for each and every תקופה, עד סוף המחזור. And that way you can go from the beginning of the מחזור, which coincides with the first Nisan after Beriat HaAdam HaRishon, until the end of the מחזור, and then the next מחזור you're going to know it again. So really, in reality, Rav Ada's calculation lets you have a fixed calendar for tekufot as well, and you can write them down, and every 19 years the tekufa is going to be exactly at the same time. אם תרצה לדע מתי תהיה תקופת ניסן לפי חשבון זה, if you want to know when תקופת ניסן is going to be according to the חשבון, תדע תחילה שנים גמולות שעברו מן המחזור. So first you need to know how many years have passed from the מחזור, how many full years. ותיקח לכל שנה מהן תוספתה, and you add to each of these years a תוספת, which is from these years, it's really an average number that lets you get there. והיא יוד כף א' קוף כף א' ממח', it's 10 days, 21 hours, and 121 halakim, and 48 regaim. And this is the additional time that there is for Shenat HaHamma over Shenat HaLevana, which is on average, because in reality we add Adar Bet every so often. וכבס כל הרגעים חלקים, וכל החלקים שעות. So after you add this number times however many full years you've had of the cycle so far, you then combine everything into days, into hours, into halakim, until you're really down to the smallest units. כדרך לחשוב במולדות, like we did several times with the מולד in prior chapters, ותגרע מן הכל, and then you subtract from everything 9 שעות ו642 חלקים, you subtract 9 hours and 642 חלקים, והנשאר, and whatever is left over, תשליכו חודש לבנה, you add it up for the months of the moon, והנשאר שאין בו חודש לבנה, and whatever is left that doesn't have enough for a month, in other words, it doesn't have enough for 29 days, so whatever is left at less than 29 days, 29 and some, תוסיף אותו על מולד, that is the leftover, that number is what you're going to use to add it to the מולד, ניסן של אותה שנה, of ניסן of that year, וברגע שיגיע בו המניין, and when you know, and when you get to that מניין, תהיה תקופת ניסן של אותה שנה. That's how you're going to get to תקופת ניסן. Unlike the first rougher calculation of Shemuel of the last chapter, in here, it's not that you go to a day and then you have to come to the next day of the week. That happens to be the day you calculated separately. This one, although you're dealing with smaller, more fine numbers, the calculations end up being much easier, much more straightforward with Rav Ada. הלכה ו' מראים לי הדברים שעל חשבון תקופה זו היו סומכים לעניין עיבור השנה בעת שבדין הגדול מסוי, שהן מעבדים מפני הזמן או מפני הצורך, לפי שחשבון זה הוא האמת יתר מן הראשון. Rambam says whenever they used to calculate and they used to want to know when the tekufa is going to be, because מפני הצורך, sometimes, as you might recall, you need to add Adar Bet if you see that the tekufa is going to fall before Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So you add Adar Bet to make sure Rosh Chodesh Nisan always falls before the tekufa of Nisan. So that the Tekufat Nisan always falls before Pesach. That's what you want to achieve. So whenever they wanted to know that, they used to use this hashbon, this number of days and hours and regaim of Rav Adanat of Shemuel, because, says Rambam, is a little more accurate than the one of Shemuel. And Rambam is hinting to us here, it's not as accurate as Rambam's own hashbon, which is going to be dealt with in later chapters, and it's not as accurate as today's hashbon that you can have with modern measurement instruments. But listen to this very important statement. והוא קרוב מדברים שנתבהרו בהסתגנינות יותר מן החשבון הראשון, and this is closer to what really can be derived from astronomical calculations, more than the first one. שהייתה בו שנת החמה 365 יום ורביע היום. That first one that was rounded at 365 days and 6 hours. Now is the important statement I wanted to point out to. וחשבון התקופות האלו שבארנו דרכם, and these two תקופות that we explained how they work, הכל בקירוב הוא. This is all approximations. Both of them are approximations. ובמהלך השמש האמצעי, לא במקומה האמיתי. And furthermore, it doesn't take into account what, according to Harambam's to Harambam's science, was a function of having more than one sphere around which the sun revolves. According to our understanding of the universe, has to do with the elliptical motion of the earth around the sun. It's not a uniform circle, which means that the earth is not going to pass through each of these quadrants at the same speed, in a way. But this is all taking into account the average, and it's an approximation. אבל במקום השמש האמיתי, תהיה תקופת ניסן בזמנים אלו בכמו שני ימים קודם שתי התקופות שיוצאים בחשבון זה. Moreover, תקופת ניסן is supposed to match where the mazal of Taleh begins, and that mazal of Taleh actually is coordinated with the stars that you see. So that, normally Rambam says, happens about 2 days before what we calculate as Tekufat Nisan. בין בחשבון מי שמחשב רביעי היום גמור, בין למי שמחשב לפחות מרביעי היום. And this doesn't matter if you end up counting 6 hours or a little under 6 hours. In both of them, they are going to be off by about 2 days. So much for that fine-tuned distinction. But this is all Bekiruv. And one more thing that Rambam may not have known, and we know today, is that these things have changed and continue changing. The motion of Earth around the sun has not always been the same, and it still is changing a little bit. Everything that we know about the universe is that it's not static. It's constantly changing, and it's possible that if you make observations and take measurements 2,000 years ago and then right now, even if the instruments are perfect and you exactly measure what you're seeing, there is going to be a difference as a function of a changing reality. This can happen, this can account for some of these changes, and in any event, for purposes of what we need at the Kufot, this is perfectly fine science, and if you went by these first 10 chapters to establish a calendar, it's going to be many generations from now until we actually get into actual trouble, in a way that is even more imperfect than an observation that just follows the human eye and tries to see where the moon is at each time. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.